are being distributed right now. Catastrophic flood disaster in Mokwa, Niger State. Need for proactive action to forestall future occurrence. The Senate notes that on Thursday, 29th of May through to Friday, 30th of May, 2025, a devastating flood swept through the town of Mokwa in Niger State after a heavy rainfall, resulting in unprecedented loss of lives and widespread of destruction of private and public properties worth more than 10 billion naira. The Senate also notes from the casualties record from the disaster that over 700 people lost their lives, including pupils from 4 Islamic schools, but only about 300 bodies were physically accounted for, while many were buried under mud and uncountable numbers swept away into River Niger. Over 350 persons were injured, about 1,800 homes destroyed, 3,000 residents displaced, about 3,354 people in IDP camps. On the whole, not less than 9,560 people were affected by the flood. The Senate notes further, infrastructure were not left out of the disaster, as the rail line coming from Ilorin through Mokwa and 2 bridges were uprooted, roads together with motor vehicles swept away, and over 50,000 hectares of paddy fields and croplands destroyed, which will no doubt affect local, state, and regional food supply chain. The Senate concerned that in the early days of this administration in 2023, via the correspondence from my office, the Ecological Fund was informed of the need to carry out urgent works at the inactive riverways in Mokwa and Kotigi towns, respectively, areas that are prone to flooding, but despite earlier warnings issued by Nigerian Meteorological. Excuse me. Also, the Senate notes or is concerned that despite the warnings, the measures put in place by the relevant MDAs to foresaw the occurrence or mitigate the devastating impact of the flood, especially in the affected communities, was not significantly felt. The Senate therefore observes that the federal government responded and intervened through the visit of the Vice President, the National Emergency Agency, Niger State Emergency Management Agency, and other relevant agencies of government, as well as NGOs and traditional rulers, through the directive of the HNP, and other well-meaning Nigerians responded by providing immediate relief materials. However, due to the magnitude of the disaster and the massive casualties recorded, the resources provided has been overwhelmed. Hence, the need to scale up intervention measures to alleviate the sufferings and the hardships faced by the affected victims. Accordingly, the Senate resolves: 1. Observe a minute silence in honor of the victims that lost their lives in the flood. 2. Urge the federal government to investigate the Mokwa flood and other parts of the country and floods in other parts of the country with a view to providing long-term solutions, including improved and sustained flood control infrastructure and early warning systems to forestall future occurrence. The Senate further urged the federal government to prioritize the execution of the relief packages promised during the visit of the Vice President. 4. Also urged the federal government to, as a matter of urgency, direct all relevant authorities to resettle people living along both active and inactive river paths and banks, water channels and erosion-prone areas, as well as intensify efforts to provide additional food and other relief materials such as medical care, building materials, temporary shelters, and clean water to the victims of the flood. And 5, mandate the joint committees of works, housing and urban development to visit the affected communities to carry out on-the-spot assessment of the disaster, as well as monitor implementation of federal government relief packages and report back to the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Victor Ome.